Hello and welcome to Montecito After Sunset. My name is Christy, and Montecito is one of my favorite new shows. It is a audio soap opera. If you haven't listened yet, go back and check out episodes 1, 2, and 3 are all up on YouTube and anywhere you get podcasts now. I have the incredible pleasure of breaking down episode 3. Please welcome executive story editor Andrew Pemberton Fowler. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Christy. Good to see you again.
You too, thank you. And we also have creator and executive producer of Montecito joining us now, Grant Rudder. Hey, Grant.
Hi, Christy. Thanks for doing this.
I am so excited to get behind the scenes a little bit of this with you guys because I am so engrossed in this show, the characters, the chaos. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. We're at the hospital, and a lot of questions get answered just in those first few seconds of the show. This must have been kind of exciting to get to this point in the writing process because it kind of opens up to a new day and new stories and new details about our characters, right?
Yeah, that first scene in the hospital, you'll hear some chords at the beginning. The first for I call them the Montecito chords, and they come in, and that kind of signifies that it's a new day. Now, in other episodes, you'll hear a version of the music that was in the final scene, and then that will say that this is an extension of where we left off in the previous episode. But like you said, new day, everything is reset. It's always a beautiful day in Montecito, and we learn that Mina is in the hospital, and nobody would really check themselves into the ER after getting tased. You usually can bounce back quite quickly, but we didn't obviously say that, but it just shows, if you're paying attention, that Mina is indeed a drama queen.
She is. She's also, we know, not the maybe best wife, right? And we also get a little bit more detail about her relationship, her marriage. Deacon is there. He goes and visits Mina at the hospital, like the doting husband, and they have to sort of play that role in front of the doctors and everyone. A lot of thought must have gone into how much to reveal in that moment about their marriage.
We spend so much time with them apart in the first 2 episodes. This is the first time they're ever together. Mina is putting on an act, and Deacon sees right through it. But when Grant gave me the long story that he'd written, and we started breaking it down into scripts and deciding how to structure these 10 episodes, this was kind of like the natural starting point. You have the big party, which soaps are known for, but then you have the denouncement that comes the next day as a result of everything that's just occurred. And then that really helps propel you on for the rest of the series.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dr. Layla Carreri, played by Kelly Tebow, and at this point in the show, she's really the only character that we've met that doesn't know the dynamic of Deacon and Mina. So she represents kind of the public facing, right, this important figure in the community that is, maybe she has her own thoughts on what she thinks is happening, but we're seeing how this couple faces the world.
Sounds like we're going to be seeing more of Dr. Carreri.
She'll be slipping in. There's more with her in later episodes for sure. She definitely plays a role.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I heard Dr. Bellevaux being paged as well. Grant, is that a throwback of sorts?
Oh yeah, well that voiceover by Christy Olsen with that
Right.
one. But yeah, that I had a project all through high school that I produced a couple seasons of a soap opera, and I've been doing this too long, but very few people would know about that. But the Bellevaux were a family on the show, and I just figured I'd slip it in because why not? Why should I use canned sound effects that someone else recorded 10 years ago? So why not customize it?
Well, and that's really cool. I think the fans of Montecito would be happy to know that you've been at this for a long time. You are just as big of a soap opera nut as the rest of us.
I know too much. Useless knowledge? I don't know.
Deacon and Mina's relationship is not the only one that we get a better grasp of in this episode. We also figure out what's going down between JJ and Bethany Gina. A lot to unpack there. Holy moly. Now, I don't have any siblings, so I am particularly interested in this dynamic between the two of them. What needed to happen between the two of them for the rest of the story to move along? Like, clearly, this relationship is going to be integral to the story, right?
Yeah,
Grant?
I think it was important to have a brother-sister relationship. It's, soaps are based in relationships So, we can have couples and, father son dynamics, but I like the idea of these siblings and they're too old to cry to their parents. Their father has passed on and everything got left to the brother. And obviously there's a lot of deep seated contempt in that. And objectively, Bethany Gina is more of the alpha of the two, but JJ kind of won out. And it doesn't sit well with her. And JJ is compromised and vulnerable. And I think that the character definitely is manipulated by the women in his life. And, for good or for bad. But I'm glad that it came through, that you could see their dynamic and the kind of the push pull between them because they've just never seen eye to eye.
It's giving Succession. If that's what you guys were going for, you nailed it.
I
Well,
love
and
these rich people who don't really need to work, but yet it's all so important to them because it's all ego.
it's fascinating. Well, and another reason why it's important for everybody to watch and sit down here for the after show. Last week on the after show for episode 2, we learned that Mina's father was a doctor, and that was something that we hadn't heard in the episode. And so this week, when we get this moment between her and him, I was especially intrigued. I was like, oh, okay, more about Mina's history and her family, and so that we can really understand why she is the way that she is. Also, it must have been important at this point to show her being vulnerable. Mina, the big old B word, until this moment here, we see a really vulnerable daughter. I can only imagine that you were thinking about ways to humanize her a little bit. Is that what this part of the story is for, Andrew?
Yes. However, with Mina, humanization can only go so far in one direction or the other. And, in soap opera, we do have these tropes of people talking to photos, people talking to objects from a childhood or a lock of hair or a wig, we have everything. So the fact that she's talking to a comatose father is really interesting because why is he being kept alive? What is her relationship to him? She makes it a point to go see him. And, we really wanted to start digging into her own pathos and her own psychology and her own history. But this was done intentionally, and audience just trust us on this one.
Yeah, and in typical Mina fashion, she talks about herself the entire time. It's all about her and what she's did, what she's accomplished, and what she's gonna do next.
Well, it's great because as a listener, it answered a lot of things, but also kept me wondering. Was her dad hard on her? Did he need her and want her to be this person who would do anything to get to the top? Is that where this came from Mina? So that was an incredibly interesting scene for me. But there's more here, of course. Bethany Gina becomes the next visitor to Mina in the hospital. And I was kind of expecting like a clash right away. I just assumed from the way the story was going that these two did have history and they did know each other and we were going to hear about something that happened in the past. But what's more fun is that we as the listeners get to kind of come along on the relationship of Mina and Bethany Gina and how that's
Mhm.
going to go down.
They definitely got up on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Bethany Gina is coming into this scene and she is just practical and grounded and we're gonna just work this out and here's some flowers, how can I help, and we're just gonna pack this away, and it's just a simple misunderstanding and it's certainly not gonna take it that way. And like anything else, this is an opportunity for her to have someone in debt to her. And yeah, I loved how Mina just kind of kept catching Bethany Gina and ratcheting her up to the very end because Bethany Gina doesn't get it. She'll never fully understand how to handle a narcissist. She's feeding into that narcissistic supply,
Right.
and Mina's just taking it all the way to the bank. It's one of my favorite scenes in the show because I just love seeing this origin of this feud, but also both these women just really with their own agendas.
Right. And we also get to see something in play that Mina references when she talks to her father about how Montecito has different expectations for her versus themselves.
Right.
So it really, like, very subtly, just on the undercurrent, it's still playing with this position of power. Who has it? Who can have it? And who is allowed to make a mistake versus whose mistake would land them in prison. So, there are a lot of things going on in that scene. For me, it kind of calls back to the origin of Dorian and Vicky's feud on One Life to Live, where Dorian always assumed that Vicky was the reason why she lost her medical license, but Vicky knew and the audience knew that Vicky was the only one who stood up for her and voted for her to keep her job. So, we get to lay that kind of groundwork in Montecito.
I have to say, I really am kind of rooting for Bethany Gina at this point. Most of the characters are what I would call terrible, horrible people. And I would have
But
assumed that Bethany Gina, just because the way everyone was talking about her, like she's such a huge deal, like she's really going to come back and mix things up a little bit. I was expecting the same sort of narcissistic behavior from her, but she's really giving us something different and it's intriguing. It's got me. I'm ready to root for Bethany Gina.
I will say all these characters, I'm so curious to know who resonates with who. I've been seeing a
Mhm.
lot of comments about people loving Mina.
Mhm.
Some people are gonna hate her, and other people are gonna root for Bethany Gina. So I love it because there's no wrong answer.
Oh, well, guys, we got a good satisfaction to our huge cliffhanger from episode 2 in this one, but I am still so enthralled. I am ready for the next episode. What do I have in store? What's in store for us in episode 4?
Well, if you like Bethany Gina or you hate her, you're gonna see or hear more of her in this next episode because the board is meeting and we're gonna hear from Vincent Irizarry, the chairman of the board of Regalton Worldwide, and he is kind of on the fence about what to do, and then we'll see where it all lands. It's gonna get intense all over again. We're just going up from here. Every episode is gonna be more chaotic than the last.
Andrew, is there anything you're looking forward to us hearing in episode 4?
What I want the audience to start anticipating are the consequences of people's actions and their decisions. I think that's the best way I can put it.
Well, we will certainly be watching, and if any of you out there have questions for Grant and Andrew or some of the other production folks and the cast who will be joining us for later episodes of Montecito After Sunset, you can hit us up on Facebook, on the Montecito Facebook page, or leave a comment right here on YouTube, and we will make sure to get your questions answered.
You can find me on Instagram at It's Grants Rants.
And Andrew, you've got a lot of projects going on all the time. Where can everybody check you out?
You can find me on Instagram at Andrew42083.
Well, thank you guys so much for indulging me in a little extra Montecito this evening. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you all next time for more Montecito After Sunset.